Okay, so we're going to now hear from Lejla Mušić. Lejla is from Bosnia and Herzegovina. She's going to talk about women's human rights to education and the new declaration. Lejla Mušić is Associate Professor at the Department of Sociology, Faculty of Political Sciences, Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and COIL Partnership Program. She's a professor with SUNY College, Old Westbury, New York, USA. She teaches sociology of gender and another sociology of gender course, and she is a youth member of the board for sociology at Bosnian Science Academy. So thank you so much for speaking and telling us about your thoughts. Over to you, Lejla.
I'm going to speak about women human rights to education through the prism of my new book. It is entitled Femina Academica, Female Professionals as Sociologists, or Female Sociologist as a Professional. My global project idea started from the idea of demarginalization or reconstruction and demarginalization of female founders in sociology idea. Since demarginalization of female sociologists was founded in the ideas of Mary Jo DeGan, in her idea of reconstruction of the names of female in sociology. And she found that most influent females in the world were sociologists. Inside this new declaration, that is sex woman-based rights, signed with over 20,000 signatures all over the world to the 300 of different feminist organizations, I found that it might be interesting to make comparison with my new founded book, Femina Academica, that investigates the reasons for marginalization of female sociologists in mainstream sociology through the prism of legal documents, and also to compare and to make comparisons with the parts of declaration, especially with Article 4 and Article 9, how to socialize women, especially to have their rights on education, especially in COVID time, where we have large dropouts of girls from high schools and school, and we have problems with the development of academic ideas and socialization of women to have rights to the education as global for females as well as males. Femina Academica as a concept. My book as a project was published in March 2021 in English language. Later on, it was published in German language in April, and today it is published in even 9 world languages. It is based on the results of investigation of the ideas of how to develop sociology as a science, other than male science, or how to see sociology as a science that is a science of global society that includes women, rather than the science that involves only experience of white dominant Western males. Femina Academica as a concept, a research project and idea, book investigation theme, is defined in 2016 by Italian scientist Spano, and higher educational female leadership position, precisely focused towards female leadership inside higher university position. Femina Sociologica, Femina Ecologica, Femina Xenologica with Femina Academica constitute educative tetralogy dedicated to investigational research practices of feminine identity in the contemporary. Spano explains the importance of female leadership through the notion of UNESCO and UN legal documents. The UNESCO 1998 Declaration on Higher Education included a statement that he should promote solidarity and equity, and it also included equality of access. Moreover, this structuring of the he field supported by the democratization discourses such as merit, or opportunity, diffused a natural faith that the new university would provide the natural achievement of gender equality, for example, through quality assurance policies. Consequently, gender equality and equity has become frequently absent as a category of analysis both in many research studies on he and in the complex attempts of appraisal of the changing processes in the universities as a place of global education. However, the assumption that women have secured a level of opportunity and advantage in the workplace collides with the pattern of male prevalences in Femina Academica and empowering of women in higher institutional education is complex, historically remarkable, and specially developed inside the contemporary professional sociology in American sociology. Therefore, you sometimes have European schools and European educational system. We have students that finish education without knowing at least 10 female sociologists. There are over 150 historical examples of very advanced biographies of female sociologists. Because of distinguished sociologists for women in society organization that legally fights for the rights of female professionals in sociology, while as in Europe, there are still less dominant female professional positions and perplexities of selections of females in academia. Female empowerment in academy and academical sociology, the most important notion is that there are different forms of violence over the woman, as it is stated in Article 4, that women should have every right to enjoy in every practice, in print, in arts, in education that they would like to partake in. In lines with that, there are different forms of violence over the woman, but these forms of exclusion is academic femicide in sociology. These women are rarely mentioned in the mainstream sociology. Rather, to remove the obstacles of gender-based marginalization, female sociologists decided to form the coined term sister founders in sociology as opposition to founding fathers in sociology. They didn't want to have concept that is identified with motherhood, emphasizing the importance of sisterhood in discipline rather than motherhood in disciplines. What does actual female enlightenment mean? Even though there are many influential female sociologists, they are not well introduced in literature and academic journals because of double standards in recognition of female in sociology. Jessie Bernard strives for the female enlightenment, questioning the sociology as mainstream, and therefore focused only to male experiences. That is also the basis of this new declaration that was signed with over 20,000 signatures. In famous statement, can sociology become science of society rather than science of male society? There we have shattered and completely discriminated female experiences in academia. One must write herself in line with the post-structuralist French psychoanalytical feminist Helen Sixou in her work Laugh of Medusa. We can state, woman must write herself, must write about women and bring women to writing, from which they have been driven away as violently as from their bodies, for the same reason, by the same law, with the same fatal goal. Woman must put herself into the text, as into the world and into history by her own movement. That's the meaning of feminist campaign, to put the experiences of women and to fight for right for women on equal education in educational system in regards to Article 4 of New Declaration. Sociology of gender represents the most contemporary, the most subversive, and one of the most youngest subdisciplines in sociology that investigates social dimensions of gender. The most important notion of gender as social construct and sex as biologically given in postmodern thought is replaced with the notion that gender and sex are entirely socially constructed, since the surgical intervention is available to both males and females, rather than the fact that we have social dysphoria with operations, we have ambiguity of trans-sex education. On the other hand, we have the feeling of anxiety of being or becoming female and male. We have traveler girls, gangs of males, girl sailors, riot girls, different forms of reaction to what does becoming a female or male means, or different form of gender dysphoria. Sociology of gender as intersection of sociology and gender therefore investigates femininity studies, masculinity studies involving the human reproduction, but also LGBTQ reproduction, but without leaving the position of LGBTQ matrix or transgender reproduction of identity. Hillary Clinton, inside the Beijing Platform and Action in 1995, says a very famous sentence: women's rights are human rights once and for all. Sadly, we still don't have practicing of women human rights, especially in science, that much developed as it should be. Article 4 of new declaration that corresponds with this part states that reaffirming women's rights to freedom of opinion and freedom of expression in subsections A, B, and C, states should ensure that women have the right to hold opinions without interferences. This should include the right to hold and express opinions about gender identity without being subject to harassment, prosecution, or punishment. Then B, states should uphold women's rights to freedom of expression, including the freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas of all kinds, regardless of frontiers, either orally, in writing, or in print, in Lightwing level Medusa of Sixu, in formal art, or through any other media. This should include the freedom to communicate ideas about gender identity without being subject to harassment, prosecution, or punishment. And C, states should uphold the right of everyone to describe others on the basis of their sex rather than their gender identity. In all contexts, states should recognize the attempts by state agencies, public bodies, and private organizations to compel individuals to use terms related to gender identity rather than sex are a form of discrimination against women, and shall take measures to eliminate this form of discrimination. The famous Australian professor of masculinity studies, Robert Connell, introduced his own transgender identity after becoming Ravine Connell, a transgender female professor. Sociology of gender equally involves the investigation of forms of masculinity and femininity without setting aside the notion of gender-based discrimination against males, in emphasizing the critique of the position that all males are privileged inside the society, leaving out the position of the males aside the hegemonic masculinities, such as older males, younger males, males of other color, poor male workers, homosexual and transsexuals. Marginalized women and males in contemporary inside REIM femininity and REI masculinities are forming the counterposition against the hegemonic white dominant Western masculinities in joining the strategies succeeded in, as Michael Kimmel states in his famous book, Manhood in America, A Cultural History, in his epilogue, in mentioning the feminist position of the President Obama. inching towards the democratic manhood. And we have that there is notions like Obama sushi, and then we have that President Obama wears campaign, this is what a feminist look like on his t-shirts. And we have also that there is a very strong role of first ladies, such as Michelle Obama in Let Girls Learn initiatives, fight for longer education and right to education of girls all over the world. That Let Girls Learn initiative is raised all over the world with campaigns of setting talks about importance of education for females. Professional female sociologists are a very significant team inside the subdiscipline of sociology. It is extraordinary, multidisciplinary and pluridisciplinary discipline. Team sister founders in sociology is concept defined by Mary Jo DeGan. There are different forms of voting rights, emancipation, Black women rights emancipation. On the other hand, we have still experiences of gender dysphoria, the gender disambiguity, and reluctances of being differently introduced to socialization in females and males, or young femininities and young masculinities. Feminist eco-criticism in Vakush's theory represents the plural perspectives that involves pleiads of different and even contradictory and opposed oppositions. Since this is not subject to generalization, feminist eco-criticism pinions feminism and eco-critics feminist literature relation to the environment. We have examples of transgender school inside Vakush's theory and the practices of transfeminist or transcultural reactionistic feminism, transfeminism. It is important to say the notions about what we feel and experience about society around us. On one hand, we have females with PhD that look like Schwarzenbach's mites. There are different females look like angels that represent very educated level. On the other hand, we have perplexities of becoming gendered in high schools. Therefore, ecological question is imposed to school as a transsexual body. Transgender youth in school celebrate their special day in Australia and in Canada, involving also the formation of a student organization such as Wear It Purple and rejoicing their jubilee each year.
Lejla.
Yes.
Sorry, just because of the timing, we need to sort of finish off. But yeah, if you round up, I know I have a couple of questions.
Yes, of course, okay. Sure. So, in order to practice a very famous book by Marjan Satrapi, Professor Papadimas, UN expert from Sunny College Old Westbury, initiated as UN expert the documentary watch of Persepolis by Marjan Satrapi for our class of Sociology of Gender. That's how we developed the international cooperation and discussion about the feminist advancement and discussion of the importance of our autobiographical novel Marjan Satrapi as a globally illustrations book on migration, gender and female adolescence to be projected and to be showed, since that's a part of the most important documentaries in curricula all over the world, in order for youth to develop special understanding of hardships of being or becoming female adolescents.
Lejla.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Could I just ask you? You signed the Declaration on Women's Sex-Based Rights, and
yes.
Our big worry, because we're not mostly academics, so we don't follow some of the discussions that you've been explaining. But what made you want to sign the Declaration on Women's Sex-Based Rights? Why did you why were you concerned about what's happening in the academia in Sarajevo and your university, or in your society?
I can have like a precise response. I think that Article 9 and Article 4 are very much in line with what my project on Femina Academica, female sociologist's profession, was about. And it's also part of the logic of how to develop or how to help youth to develop strategies in understanding gender dysphoria around the concept socialization, around transgender and transsexuality, especially in this line that in Article 9 states that shall not be and must not be a force, that youth should not be forced into transsexual operation, that those operations, even though we have homophobic understanding that this happens somewhere else in the world, we have it on a different level, which is very liberal, and it's very problematic in European countries. So I think that's very liberal and very thoughtful, and those parts of the convention are very much in line with my investigation, as I stated. Since it's part of my project, I analyzed the influences in comparison after the watching of Marina Terragni, her personal autobiography of female adolescent that travels from east to west and then back to west from east, and discussion how the discussions are perceived in America and in Bosnia and Herzegovina.